And President Obama used his weekly radio address to the nation to explain more about the operations he authorized in Iraq. The Republican response was given by U.S. Senate candidate from Minnesota, Mike McFadden. He talked about the economy.
Here in Minnesota, over half of our workers are underemployed, and weekly wages have gone up by just pennies. This is not what an economic recovery should feel like.
The choice of McFadden to deliver the GOP response is widely seen as an effort by the National Republican Party to boost Mike McFadden's bid to unseat Senator Al Franken. In a surprise, McFadden won the Republican Party's endorsement at the party's convention in May. He does face opposition in Tuesday's primary, notably from State Representative Jim Abler. And Mike McFadden joins us now. Thank you so much for coming on.
Well, Esme, what a pleasure to be on your show this morning.
Well, we certainly appreciate it. I want to ask you a couple of questions. You've said before that you would like to see yourself, or you see yourself as a right-center Amy Klobuchar. Senator Klobuchar's voting record is virtually identical to that of Senator Franken. What did you actually mean by that?
Well, I think what Minnesota wants is two hardworking senators in Washington that are going to work for Minnesotans and be able to work across party lines to get things done. You know, as I've gone across the state, Esme, what I've heard from Minnesotans consistently is they believe we're on the wrong track, and I want to get us back onto the track of growth and prosperity, and I know how to do that. I'm a dad, I'm a coach, I'm a businessman, and overall I'm a problem solver, and we need to get this economy growing again.
Are you suggesting that Al Franken hasn't worked across party lines because there are a dozen or so bills in the past couple of years that he's been involved with? Just recently, this past month, another bipartisan bill to block a future propane shortage.
Well, Esme, I'm glad you brought that up. Senator Franken has voted with the president 97% of the time. They're connected.
So is Senator Klobuchar.
They're connected at the hip. And when you look at propane, Senator Franken's energy policy has caused the propane shortage. We have plenty of propane in this country. It's just crude and natural gas. The issue is we don't have pipelines to get it to Minnesota. I know that, you know, my dad grew up on a dairy farm. Farmers need propane to dry their crops, and there's going to be a shortage again. And the senator's solution has been to subsidize it. What we need are more pipelines that come into Minnesota to get propane to the consumer, and we can do it, and I know how to get that done because I'm a problem solver.
You know, some of your comments about the Keystone Pipeline have taken some criticism up in the Duluth area. You were asked if it would be okay if building the Keystone Pipeline if Chinese steel was used, if it was less expensive. A lot of folks up in the Iron Range take issue with that. Do you really feel that we should use Chinese steel in the Keystone Pipeline project?
So, Esme, once again, this is the Democrats refocusing an issue. The issue is the pipeline. I want the pipeline built. Senator Franken has repeatedly voted against the president or against the pipeline. I would love it to be built with steel from Minnesota. In fact, I'd love it to be built with copper from Minnesota. I'd love to get that polymet mine open.
Well, a couple questions, but didn't you say that you'd be willing to use Chinese steel? If it was less expensive?
What I said is I will not support any sort of steel that's subsidized by a foreign government. And I think, once again, the Democrats have tried to reframe this issue. I want the pipeline built. Senator Franken has been against the pipeline, and I'm a problem solver. This isn't an either or. It's not a false choice. If to get this pipeline built, Esme, we agree to use U.S. steel, that would be fantastic. Let's get it done. I want to get it built because we have the opportunity to be energy independent in this country and really kick off this economy of ours.
Well, I think Senator Franken has actually said that he supports the pipeline, but he wants to make sure that it's built with U.S. steel and that whatever oil comes out of it is sold here in the U.S. And he's voted to circumvent the permitting process. But he said repeatedly that he would support this project done the right way with the right vetting process.
Well, let's get it done then, because I support it. He has voted multiple times against the pipeline. That's his voting record. If I would agree to get that pipeline built tomorrow, and I'd love to see Senator Franken actively support the pipeline, but I believe that he's so connected with extreme environmentalists in this country that he'll never support the pipeline, just like he will not allow the polymet.
He said he will as long as it's built with U.S. steel.
Well, his voting record is that multiple times he's voted against the pipeline. And if he said if we'll use U.S. steel to get it open, I'll agree to that today. I think that would be great.
Let me ask you about the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, because you've said you'd like to replace parts of it, not repeal it as some Republicans would like to do. One of the things that you've said you'd like to repeal is a provision that Senator Franken's got gotten credit for that requires insurers to use 80% of the dollars for premiums on actual health care costs. This particular measure has gotten $300 million in rebates for Americans just last year, including 2,000 people here in Minnesota. Why repeal that particular measure?
Well, Esme, we have a huge health care issue in this country. I know it. I've run a business with my partners for 20 years, and we need to fix it. I don't think Obamacare's the right solution.
But what about this measure, though? Because I mean, this is a measure that requires, people's hard-earned premium dollars to go directly to health care.
Well, Esme, I'd look at this measure along with measures to make sure that people with pre-existing conditions can have access to affordable health care. I believe the fact that they didn't before is wrong. But I don't think the federal government should do it. I think it's much better implemented at a state level. And the initiative that you just talked about was something that Senator Franken got from the Minnesota State Legislature.
So you'd consider keeping that initiative?
I would. So my focus on health care is to drive down costs, increase accessibility, and maintain quality. And so any provision that would allow us to do those three things, I'll support.
So would you consider keeping that?
Oh yes, I would consider that. I would roll up my sleeves and get a solution. We have to have a do-over on Obamacare. It's not the right solution. It's not only that 140,000 Minnesotans lost their insurance in spite of the president's promises that they would. The promise that this will be less expensive, it's not. It's going to be very, very costly. I think you'll see it when the renewals come out in October here. And what we have as Americans is we have an issue with health care. We need people, Republicans and Democrats, that are problem solvers, that are willing to roll up their sleeves, to sit across the table from each other and come up with solutions that will allow us to drive down costs in health care, increase accessibility, and maintain quality. And the fundamental difference probably between Senator Franken and myself is he'd like to see the federal government mandate it, and I'd much rather see it done at a state level. But I want solutions, and that's what I'm all about.
All right. Well, Mike McFadden, obviously you'll be facing others in the primary. We'll be following that. Thank you so much for coming in.
Esme, thank you. It's been a pleasure this morning.
All right.